How would I value success? Personally, I feel like we all have dreams and ambitions that will obviously vary from person to person, but I feel like if you're able to at least try to accomplish your dream, or if you go for it and completely just commit yourself to wanting to achieve that specific goal, then that would be success. Just taking a leap of faith and taking a risk and going out and getting it. And whether you achieve it in your eyes or not, at least the fact that you've gone out and tried to get that is really admirable.
Ooh. I guess as like a recovering perfectionist, I value success as having a work-life balance, also having a balance of my social battery and my social outings. I think balance is the thing that for me, and also of course like economic stability, which is always tricky in the city, being a creative. But I think if I'm doing projects that I really am choosing with complete discernment and creative openness to what that challenge might be or what that might look like, or whether or not it's filling something, or it's sort of like itching a scratch that I have about a certain area or way of thinking, that's success to me.
Highly. I think success lies in the eye of the beholder. I think the commercial definition of success, I don't really value that much, because to me, my achievements don't mean the world. Of course, it's fun when you win something or you're the best at something or whatever. But at the end of the day, I know that's not what's gonna bring me to the point in life where I want to be at. I want to be able to fail and still be at peace with myself. And so success for me is exactly that, actually. Being at peace without needing the outside validation. And that's success for me. So that I value highly.
I think for me, I am a very ambitious person, and probably more ambitious than I think I am. So success for me is something that I value highly. Maybe not even value highly, just something that I regard for myself and want for myself. So I do place it pretty high, and I want to succeed. I want to thrive as much as everybody. Sometimes when you don't, it's very hard to just let that go and not let that bother you. Especially if you're like me and always wants to do the best job they can and wants to always be brilliant and strive for something bigger than myself. So not succeeding or running into lots of dead ends is very much like, oh God, far out, it's very draining. And when I do succeed, I value it very highly, and I want the best for myself, for me, and that's why I feel like I value success and what that means very highly. Because why wouldn't I if I want, the best outcome for myself?
I value success in two different ways. I think there's success in your career and then there's success in your life. So I think with career, to have success in your career is to, be in the occupation that you choose to be in due to your passion and have it be your sole source of income. But to be successful in life is totally different, and I think completely objective to each person. But to me, to be successful in my life is to be content in the moment, not to be looking forward to the future, not to be looking back in the past, but to be content in the moment that you're in. I think that's where you're successful, because if you're constantly looking to the future, then you're not happy with where you are now. If you're constantly looking in the past, then you're obviously still not happy where you are now. So I definitely think to live in the moment is to be successful in life.
Oh, this was an interesting question. Because it really depends what kind of aspect. Because, in my work, in my theatre, acting,
directing that kind of work. Success is when I've made something that I'm proud of. And more often than that, that's true. And so that's really cool for me. That's what success is, being able to look back at something and go, it's not perfect, but I'm proud of myself for doing it. That's successful. And I think actually that's covering most parts of things that I think are successful. If I'm proud of it, or if I come away with memories and things that I won't forget, positive. And learning, if it was an incredible learning experience, but, you know, it wasn't, actually no, I'm going back on that. If it's positive and it's something that I won't forget, then I think that's a successful thing. And if I've done something, especially if I'm created something and I'm proud of that, that's success for me.
Not to rewrite your question, I think it's like how I define success has changed. So in terms of how I used to value like success in terms of like great grades and smashing life, like you know, doing well academically, doing well like career-wise or whatever. And I'm talking about like when I was like 15 or whatever, you know, like what career, but the kind of thing of like exceeding expectations in every sense. That was how I valued, that was what I defined as successful, and I valued that completely. So in terms of that, like if I, inside me, that's how I would still define success. That's still what my mind immediately goes to, like career and creativity and all that kind of thing. And I still value it, but I don't put everything on it. I think I'm a little bit more balanced across the board in that sense. I'm not as black and white in the way I value success. I think success is like one of those things that for me is a little bit black and white. So in terms of how I value it now, if that's how I'm still defining success, like career success or creativity, then I still value it, and it's still something that it's important to me, but it's not like if I don't get this tomorrow, then I'm gonna like beat myself up about it kind of thing. So I value it, but not as much. And then I guess on the flip side, if I define success differently, which is how I'm sort of trying to go about life now, like if I'm successful in my ability to live up to the things that I value, namely like empathy and kindness and being there for people, I think I'm getting better at it every day. So how do I value it? I don't know. A lot, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think I don't know if it's interesting. I think as an artist, I try not to think about being successful. I try to think about doing the work. And I think there's like a weird thing as an artist that if you are thinking about being successful, then that like devalues the artistic integrity of what you are doing. If success is like the goal. So you always have to sort of pretend to not want to be successful in order for the art to have integrity. And so that is something I think about a lot, in which case I'm always like, I feel like I'm always like chasing like a feeling of success, but not like a clear outline of what the success is, because if I had the clear outline, then that would devalue the art that I'm doing, hence making the success less successful. It's a very convoluted answer, but I guess to extrapolate from that, I think it's if people like my work, like if people like what I do is, but also I've like created things that I'm like, I don't know if many people like this, but I really like this, and it's select few people that I care about like this, and that to me makes it successful. I think as long as I'm always like learning something, I think this is really important. As long as I'm always like learning something from the work that I'm doing, then I would count it as successful. Because I'm a very big advocate for
killing your darlings and throwing things away. But I never feel like I'm losing something by doing that, because I always feel like I've learnt something through the process of creating and then getting rid of it, because I was like, oh, this didn't work for this reason, this reason, this reason. That's amazing that I've learnt that now, and that's something I can take with me as I go forward. So I think, yeah, as long as I'm learning and growing from what I'm doing artistically, then that feels like success for me. But then I also, I guess, success in my life isn't just my artistic life, it's also just like my life. And I think that is harder to measure, because obviously like work has clear goals, but I think in my actual life, I think I measure my success by, I guess, by the people in my life and how much the people in my life add value to it, I would say, maybe. I've always sort of, and I've been sort of reconsidering this idea a little bit, I think, but I've always sort of held the principle that like what I am aiming for in my life is to just have people in it that I care about. And if I have people in it I care about, then my life is worth living. But I've recently realized that my life needs to be worth living without people around me. And that's something that I'm struggling to come to terms with a little bit. But still, I think if I've got people that I care about around me and people that care about me around me, I'm doing something right. So that sounds like success to me.